John did it.
Welcome back, guys. So April and I are just talking about some stuff here. And I've heard from Rachel from 7:30 till 9:25.
Really?
9:25. I've heard from her at least 3 or 4 times. And for stuff that she can actually just make her own decisions on. But then she's worried about, in her mind, did you make the right decision? Well, I answered her questions that, yes, you have made the right decisions, but you really shouldn't have to ask me questions about did you make the right decisions for the shop. So, this morning was, as I'm videoing, I'm getting pages of text messages like she loves to give to me, like I'm her husband. And I read about 3 sentences worth of it, and then I just stop, because it's nonsense. It's me. Important to her. That there's work in this shop that's my skill level, and then there's work in the shop that's not the staff's current skill level. So there was a little bit of an argument and debate or conversation between them that was unresolved after I talked about working together as a team. Working together as a team. So I guess Rachel was just like, well, it's work, you go and do it. And I'm like, well, that's not always the case in a shop environment. You can't give a lube tech A-tech work. It just doesn't happen. Or, things like that. And anybody in the industry should understand that. People think when they go to a dealership or a shop that they're getting the most experienced, the most expensive, the most knowledgeable guy to do the oil change and tire rotation. I'm going to tell you that's not what's happening in most shops. Even though when you come to my shop, you are sometimes getting the most experienced guy doing an oil change and tire rotation. I don't enjoy that type of work. It's a sensory thing for me that boils the blood in my brain. That's just it. But I still do it because I want my customers to get service at the same time. So the job is a difficult job. I already pre-diagnosed it for a secondary air injection system failure and talked to the staff on duty yesterday that, hey, the air pump system works, the lines are all intact, the system's trying to execute its program, and the pump does come on, but there is other complications, and I already know the speedy process of this is that the secondary air injection system is usually clogged in the cylinder head. The exhaust manifolds have to come off, and a lot of other things need to be checked, chipped, scraped, and figured out on your way in and out of the job. Saturday is a 4-hour day. I don't feel that staff currently on duty has enough experience with this job to get in and out in 4 hours. In an 8-hour day with assistance and guidance and not being pressured, I feel that they could challenge themselves on a normal day, but not on a Saturday. This is where Rachel didn't understand. She's like, well, it's 4 hours, right? You should be able to do it in less than 4 hours, is how she's thinking in her mind. And then I had to reel her back in and like, Jude can challenge himself at a different time when there's more time in the shop, not on a Saturday. It's not that simple of a job for a first go at it, removing a whole entire secondary air injection system and making sure that it's done right the first time. Plus all the other checks that you need to do along the way once you remove the air injection valves. Are the plastic hoses going to break because it's 10 degrees outside and it's only 50 degrees in the shop? So after all three of us had a 3-way phone conversation that I reeled her in and said, now do you really think that that's a job for Jude to do today? What would you say? No. All right, it's built for 4 hours. He's never done it before. It's not that simple to gain access to the job. And she doesn't know that, right? But I know all the ins and outs of majority of the jobs. And I just said, no, Rachel, when he said it's an Anthony job, it is an Anthony job to get it done in 2 hours and get it done right the first time. But for him to do the job, try and do it in 4 hours, I'm going to come back to a car still in pieces that I don't know if was done right 100% the first time, because there's hidden issues with this type of engine that he may or may not be aware of that I need to take him through. And I said he could watch a video. There's plenty of them out there. And he can use all data. But that still doesn't ensure the job the way that I expect it to be done, because you can do it many different ways. So in the end, it was just, hey, put it on the back burner until Monday. You need a full-time tech, full-time tech on that job on Monday, and that's going to be full-time tech's going to be me.
Yeah.
I think Jude's working Monday. I don't know if he is or he isn't. And then Caleb will be back Tuesday, and then if it's not done by Tuesday, then it'll be Wednesday when there's full staff. But you have to know the limitations of your staff when you're a service writer, and then you have minimal staff. You can't just throw a guy that doesn't have experience in transmission rebuilds and have him rebuild a transmission and hope that he's going to get it right the first time. Chances are that's not going to happen. And that's it. So I love hearing from Rachel, but I don't love hearing from Rachel. What else? Then I got a phone call about, do I have, now she's worked there for about 8 years now, do I have a 6-foot folding table that she can put all the Christmas presents we have for our vendors and customers? Yes. So all of our regular customers that have been supporting me religiously for 18 years now in business, who go nowhere else unless I say that you have to go someplace else, which is very far and few in between. We usually see them fairly regularly, and if we don't see them for the time of the holidays, Rachel will call them and say, please stop in, we have a gift for you for the holidays.
That's false.
It's not false.
I drop them off.
We're not talking about wholesale. We're talking about retail customers. For retail customers, get gifts, excuse me. And our wholesale accounts, who we see every day almost, we also have gifts for them as well. And since they're there every day and every week, we give them out for the holidays. So, Rachel, no, we don't have a 6-foot folding table in the shop. You should know that. I didn't need a phone call for that. And just like last year, put them on the floor like you did last year. They're all in boxes and bags and containers. And the shop's not disgusting. The office is not disgusting. Put them on the floor. All right. So then the next phone call I get is, hey, Anthony. Yes, Rachel. I said, I thought you didn't want me to bother you. She goes, no, I don't want you to bother me. I said, I don't want you to bother me on my day off. She says, the guy that was here a few weeks ago with the Astro van. Yes, Rachel. What's up? He wants to replace all the brake lines. I said, well, that's a smart decision. She goes, well, he wants to leave a deposit. I said, well, that's protocol. And then come back when the lines are in and we have the whole entire day to do the job. So it kind of sounds like the way that I said we should do it from the beginning. So I'm glad he came to his senses. She's like, okay, I just wanted you to know. You already know how to do all this. You don't need to ask my permission. Can a customer give you money for a job? Yeah, no problem. Take his money, order the parts. We have 2 vendors we use for brake line kits. One is Inline Tube, which is our go-to, and then we just picked up the other company the other day. The product was phenomenal quality, and we used the proper vehicle description and VIN number, but we wound up not getting the right lines, and I'm wondering if their cataloging was a little off, and we needed 5-foot brake lines, and I think they sent, the car was a 2-door extra cab with no doors, and I don't know how it wound up short, but it was short 2 lines. It wasn't the end of the world for us. We used the lines, we used every line but 4, and I just made up 1-piece continual lines from the middle of the vehicle back to the brake hoses on the Toyota. So it all worked out. It didn't really cost me much more time to make 2 lines. It did cost me more time and materials. And then I did estimate the job with labor time a little higher because everything was rusted out. So it kind of worked out where I didn't have to bother a customer and say, hey, we ordered this line, you ordered this kit, had it shipped here, it doesn't have all the pieces. And so we just made it work. But I'm glad that, this was the customer a few videos ago that came in with one busted brake line, one was repaired. It was like a 2000 Astra van. And it's in pretty decent shape. It still needs a little bit of work here and there. We've been trying to stay on top of it. That he had to have it done in one day, and I just told him it's impossible. I'm not just putting one line on this car so you can have your car to try and make it a trip someplace safe. I'm going to decline on doing that. And actually, corporate made me take that video down because I said the customers' expectations are ridiculous, and they were. So corporate, we really shouldn't have to take that video down because the customer came back with smiles, right? I handled them the same exact way as I handled in my video, is that your expectations are ridiculous. It's not the right repair, although you think it's the right repair. And you have to reason with people, and sometimes you have to use an iron fist, right? You can't just sugarcoat stuff and use those sales tactics and procedures to do a job for a customer. And sometimes you might be able to use the old warm and fuzzy, kissy, kiss their ass kind of way to get the job, or just give them what they want. So I don't give them what they want because if you give a customer what they want, in most cases, you wind up with a headache. So the way that I handled it was exactly the way that I handled it in the video, and Rachel was the same thing. Like, hey, dude, your expectations are unreal and unrealistic. It's not safe. Putting one brake line on is not the way to go. You had one fail already; it was patched in. You had another one that's busted, that's wrapped in electrical tape or something holding the fluid pack, and then the rest of the system is just, it's past its serviceable life. So as an expert, right, we have to know what we're dealing with, and we have to say, yes, at this point you have one, because of the area and location that it's in, has a spot that's rotted out, and then we make a decision on, can we just repair that line, or do we have to replace the whole line? But what's the condition of the entire braking system at that point? It's near failure. And by us breathing on it, walking by it, looking at it too long, it could actually start to fail. And that's the truth in our business, right? When I use the terms, I don't want to be married to a vehicle, there's many reasons why I say that. And sometimes customers are just that way. Like, they like you, they like the way that you handle them. Sometimes they show up and just have questions they want to answer because they're just satisfying their own knowledge. Maybe the energy you give off they like. I kind of call that a marriage. Like, I have some customers that legitimately come in all the time and just say, hey, hi, my car is good, my car is bad, and I have a question. Like, almost like a marriage. And your business is a marriage. My business is a marriage to me. Excuse me. So the way that I handled this customer, now he has been a spotty customer, this Astrovan customer, spotty customer for 18 years. And what I say is, like, the first 10 years in business, I saw him here and there. Then there was a gap where we haven't seen him. And I guess it's because he's just not satisfied with the work he was getting elsewhere. He is back at Meineke Sentiments, and not only for just exhaust repairs, which he still needs, that he's been declining, but for other mechanical repairs that have been neglected. So we've been working with him to do this. So my position on when I did the video was, hey, some customers' expectations are ridiculous, and corporate said that we were getting too much negative publicity on this. Well, the customer didn't feel that way because he's back in my store today swiping his credit card for a $500 deposit to do the job the way that I said. So in my eyes, I didn't see that it was negative whatsoever, although people's minds work in so many different ways where if you call them a human being, they're offended. right? I want to be identified as a fucking parakeet. Don't call me a human, or don't call me a man or a woman, right? So this is the screwed up world we live in today. That they took what I was saying, because those people who were the people who were giving the negative comments. The people who were giving the negative comments, who do you think I was identifying to?
Huh?
The people who were giving negative comments to that video, that I had to get a phone call from corporate. That video identified with a certain consumer. And who do you think they were? The people who have unrealistic and unobtainable expectations of people in service, or people in products, right?
People that want a $20
So that video opened a wound for them, but the customer was dealt with the same exact way, in the same exact language and posture. Like, hey, you're not an asshole or a jerk off. You're actually a guy who just needs someone to reason with you, and not with a sugar-coated cookie.
Right. Makes sense.
But people respect that. Like, I hear more customers say who are the aggressive customer, who are used to pushing people around and getting their way, say that I like the way that you guys handle us, or me, or handle the situation. I respect that. I'll be back for more. Like, there's people out there who know that certain places are so customer service that they can get everything for free, right? That's a fact. The more bells they ring and the more they complain, a coupon's going to show up in their mailbox or email to try and get them back so they can do the same shit in that store or that business again, right?
Yeah.
That's a fact. So the way that I handled it, it worked out perfectly fine. Sometimes, some people need a reality check. Sometimes I do too. I've always heard that there's no such thing as bad publicity. None. And look at P. Diddy. He's still getting publicity in jail. And all these other rapper, gangster, murderers, drug dealers, and on and on and on. The lawbreakers, good or bad, they're still getting publicity. And we're going to use, let's just say, Tony Stark. Now, what is his name? Robert Downey Jr. Up and coming actor, young, good, hit a wall of drugs and alcohol, complete nightmare, right? Bad publicity, good publicity, bad publicity, superstardom publicity. Dude's still a superstar. Beyonce, Jay-Z getting publicity from all this, raping people, abusing people. They had good publicity, now they have bad publicity, and they may have good publicity again. There's somebody out there just saying, pulling your string, saying, oh, well, you can't say this, and you can't say that, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. Be yourself. And, if that customer never returned, called corporate, right? Never returned, called...
Did you get the pans?
Yeah, called corporate. Gave them the riot act. Called us, gave us the riot act. Called, let's see, the Better Business Bureau. Called the news people. Did everything in their power to say that I did something wrong. And someone could say that, hey, Anthony, you really did say something wrong, or you did something wrong. Maybe I would learn from that, but that isn't how it worked out. It worked out with the customer returning with smiles and saying, hey, I came to my senses. I understand what you're saying. I do realize that the vehicle is old. It is in my best interest to not just do one brake line, which we refuse to do. And I want you guys to do it right. And he's handing us the money to do the job right. And we'll be back after the parts show up. We'll be back to get the whole job done. So to me, it was a win. The only thing that I lost was, more publicity from YouTube. But, it went to Facebook. And, was scratching the wounds of the people who are just those people that I was talking about with unrealistic expectations. So then now I was talking to the new manager of Majestic, who it's under new ownership, which we do tons of work for. Excuse me. And he was telling me that how at one new car dealership, when he started there, now this guy is a great people person. He handles situations like me. He comes off on the serious. He's no pushover. He said, "Hey, Anthony, I have a vehicle, a tire light's on. He got a weird noise. A couple different after-sale issues that weren't done at their original recondition department, which they have their own recon department that doesn't do such a great job. It seems like they do good enough to make it to the dealership lot. And that's okay for me. I don't mind doing the comeback work. I actually enjoy it because there's challenges to the comeback work, right? Why did they miss it? Why was it an intermittent? Why was it a ghost? Whatever. So then the customer gets in and says, "Hey, they want this product," and then they don't accept this product after the second road test or whatever the case may be, or when they finally take ownership, which could be pre-planned. Like, hey, now I'm going to get what I want, because I do believe that there's certain people out there that are premeditated for their expectations. It's a matter of, are they going to get it? So he's at a new car dealership, and it's a lower volume car dealership. And I would have to say, since he's newer to Majestic, this had to have been through pre-COVID and COVID, and now he's, post-COVID. That they were like 100 cars a month or something like that. And then he said he took the store to 300 cars a month when he left. I don't know why he would leave there. But anyway, and I said, well, what was the attributing factor? And he said, customer satisfaction. And I said, well, what do you mean? You're selling new cars, right? He's like, well, you'd be surprised. And I said, well, I'm not surprised. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, the customer came back and complained about, I don't know, a scratch, or the car didn't come with floor mats, or something that was missing, or he said it really wasn't my money to be playing with, so I didn't really care, but he did care, right? He said, I looked at the job and said, all right, well, the customer's asking me for $150 or $200 or $500 or even $1,000 thing, right? Big dealership money. He said I would give them almost everything that they wanted to overcome their objections, right? To build that customer relationship and loyalty. So obviously he was there for maybe a few years, or maybe he wasn't, right? But that word will spread through social media or to other friends. Hey, I bought a new car from so-and-so, or whatever the case may be. And, the car, after I took the car home, I realized it didn't have floor mats, or it didn't have this, or it didn't have that, or I wanted this, or, I wanted 3 keys or instead of 2 keys. And he just said in my mind, he says, let me just give them what they want. And that's what he attributed to his success, but it wasn't really his money. They weren't, I would say that the owners or the partners, I don't know what the makeup was up in the background, were, hey, whatever this dude's doing is working, because we almost tripled our car sales, right? He probably was the general manager, right? That when there was something that came up or couldn't get a deal done, and he was like, yeah, they want 3 keys, give it to them. Yeah, they want a spare tire, give it to them. They come back and complain about this. Yeah, give it to them. Just give them what they want. And that worked, and you can probably do that with a multi-billion-dollar business. It's harder to do that with a smaller company that the makeup isn't like that. And so you have to provide customer service within boundaries, of your dollar versus boundaries of millions and billions of dollars, right? You understand what I'm saying? And I'll just give you an example. Yesterday, we were doing a job for our landscape company across the street from us, who has a Chevy truck that the converters were stolen during this the catalytic converter wave of stolen cats. Aftermarket barely had parts. Dealerships didn't have parts. And when we could obtain a direct fit system, depending on how much it was missing, we would get it and put it on. So at this point in time, they were stolen. We put aftermarkets on. We said, hey, you can't get OEM. Aftermarkets were the choice, although aftermarkets are not the choice sometimes. But it's what was available to get the car back together on the road. And this was going on worldwide, and it was heavier in Philadelphia than it was probably anywhere else. Hence, we had more scrap yards and local stings busted than anyone in the world, Philadelphia. So after, I think, a year or two, he was back with a cat efficiency code. And I said, hey, we've been doing business for 18 years, and we don't do a lot of business, but they're across the street neighbors. It's out of warranty. I will cover the labor for you, no problem, as long as the manufacturer who I purchased it from, which we did local dealer, will give me the warranty. We talk to them. We say, hey, we need a pipe assembly. Can you warranty it? Yes, no problem. All I asked for was a labor. Right? Going above and beyond the warranty period, which is customer service, right, April? Giving the customers. You didn't ask for it. I said, hey, this is how it's going to work out. It's out of warranty, and I'm still going to take care of you. And it's a delivery vehicle, so mileage and years are done. So now it's 2 more years later, and then they said, hey, we took it someplace else. They said it needs a throttle body, and it needs throttle body, and it needs cats. It has cat efficiency codes. And we're like, all right, is there a throttle body code? Because they have their own code reader. Like almost everybody has their own code reader now. It's not a true diagnostic, but it's close enough. And they say, no, but they said the reason why the cats are failing is because of the throttle body. I said, well, there's no throttle body codes. The cats aren't failing because of that. It's the aftermarket product and the use that you're putting the vehicle under, since it's a delivery dually dump. Aftermarket parts just don't hold up. So we're like, Rachel's like, okay, so you have cat efficiency codes. Your concern is the throttle body. That's it. Yep. We start the truck up. We bring it in. We check the codes. There's no throttle body codes. I confirm that it's cat efficiency codes. I'm like, yeah. All right. Well, let's switch them to factory cats. Get them a price, and then if not, today they have catalytic converters that far outperform the aftermarket products 2 and 4 years ago that were available. Remember, that was all that was available during the craze of stealing catalytic converters. So the dealership price for OEM catalytic converters is ridiculous, and they also want the cores, which they charge ridiculous core charges for OEM. We don't have the OEM cats because they were stolen. All we have is aftermarket. They will not accept the aftermarket cats. Now, explaining all this to the customer, we're saying your other option is this. Let's put these reliable aftermarket cats that are available today on it, and they are triple the expense or double the expense of what you purchased prior, but we know that they hold up and they work. And if you do a tune-up at the same time, I'll give you a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty on the catalytic converters. We agree to the job. We put it up in the air. We leak check it, and we bring it out of shop. We don't test drive cars for cat efficiency codes. We only would test drive a car if the customer has a concern, right? They're reporting, hey, I'm down on power. There's a shake or shudder, mile per hour, this, that, and the other thing. For cat efficiency codes, it's typically start it up, drive it into the shop. When you're finished, start it up and back it out of the shop. And on an LS V8, we've done thousands. We don't need to test drive one after we do wires and spark plugs. If it's not misfiring or doing anything crazy, time of startup and checking our work and putting in a parking lot, there's no reason for us to road test the car. We minimize the liabilities by saying we don't need to test drive a car based on your requests if it doesn't pertain and require a road test, limiting liability. So the guy, we're not dealing with the owner, we're just dealing with the driver of the car who dropped the vehicle off and reported the conditions. These were the conditions he complained about. He takes the car and he's driving down the street, and he says the car's still down on power. So he comes back and he's running up and down Rachel on what you're the mechanics, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, you're supposed to diagnose the whole car, blah, 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 blah. And Rachel's like, you didn't ask for a diagnosis. You didn't tell us that you had a drivability problem on top of the codes that you thought you had when you only had CAT efficiency codes and no throttle body codes. He goes, if you don't tell the doctor all your symptoms, how can we fix all your problems? So this younger guy is riding and still bitching at Rachel about the job. And I said the same thing. If you don't tell me your car has a drivability issue, how am I supposed to say that I need to road test this car before and after the job? And somebody's going to say we should road test a job before and after all the time. If the car came in not running from clogged cats or something like that, when I had a bunch of O2 codes or something past that, or misfires or anything else past just CAT efficiency codes, there's no protocol for me to test drive a car. There's no reason for me to test drive it. It started up, go through the break-in procedure in the shop, and then once the customer gets in it, they'll finish the break-in procedure, right? Because we don't just slap a CAT on and then back it outside. We slap the CAT on or install the CAT, start the car up, put the car up in the air, inspect our work, and then move it in and out of the shop. Now, we did drive it. We drove it from the parking lot to our bays, and then from our bays to a parking spot. And we didn't have a drivability issue show up there, but drivability issues don't normally show up sometimes in that short little span. But the point is, if the customer don't tell me everything that's wrong with their car, their expectations, right? Tell me your expectations that you want me to fix, and you didn't disclose that, well, now we got a problem. Because his expectations were, you're the mechanic, you should have been diagnosing everything, you should have checked everything. And Rachel's like, that's all an extra charge, sir. You didn't ask for a diagnostic. You just said, hey, I have CAT efficiency codes. I want new catalytic converters. I think it needs a throttle body based on what someone else said to us. Well, it doesn't. If there's no codes for the throttle body, I'm ruling out drivability issue. That's it. If there's no codes for anything else for drivability, I don't really need to drive your car. So, after I found that it's possible that the first set of CATs or second set of CATs had a partial piece come apart and block the flow in the exhaust system, but not completely, but enough to reduce the power output of the vehicle. Not enough to notice just starting it up, moving it out of the shop. So I said, Rachel, call the owner, tell them it's really not our fault that they didn't tell us all the symptoms when they asked for a specific service, and we don't need to drive catalytic converter jobs unless for CAT efficiency codes. For CAT efficiency codes, we don't need to drive a car. And that's just how we do things in my shop. And I've been doing it that way for my entire career. And Todd was like, the owner said, I understand. He should have told you that there was more concerns past CAT efficiency codes. Don't worry about it. I'll talk to him. And I took care of it at no charge. Now, I could have actually gotten paid for this further diagnostic, right? Hey, I need to go further to figure out why you have your engine's down on power. It's not common with CAT efficiency codes that you have down on power. And I did look at the bricks, and the bricks were clean, and it looked like they were all there, but I didn't cut them open to like check it all out. It could have been from the prior job, but not enough to cause a problem in 2 years. It just showed up after I started working on it. Rachel's texting me again. We got busy, blah, 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 blah. That's your job, run the shop. She's texting me. Tell her to stop bothering me, or I'm going to reach through her Christmas bonus and start chopping it down to zeros. Like that.
That's a lie.
So, customer service-wise, right? I didn't meet his unreasonable expectations because he didn't tell me everything. We're not mind readers. And not do we want to be driving around a dually dump truck in the narrow neighborhood around by us or Route 130 highway, because we don't have to. Like, minimizing the risks and more crap that goes on in our lives by not. Like, if we get a super high expensive car, nobody gets in that car or out of it but me. I do the inspection exterior, interior, and bring the car into the shop, and I bring the car out, minimizing the risks and problems. So he had a different tune when he came to pick up the truck, not because it was his money, but his expectations were that he never gave us all the information to satisfy in his mind what he thought was going to happen. Like, he left out an important detail that the truck's down on power too. And there was no other codes in the system that led us to that. Now, if he would have went out and drove it around for a while, we probably would have found it. But that's part of diagnostic time. And if he would have told us that from the rip, we'd have said, hey, after we do the cats, we're going to drive it. There's going to be additional charges for diag. You understand? Yes. And then we could have finished the problem and problem to solution in one sweep. And then I just wound up doing it for free in the end. But his expectations were unrealistic for what he wanted done. We also had another customer bring a car in with a belt missing from his vehicle. And then in the headline it says, "All I want is a belt." So when I walk up there and I looked at this thing and I'm like, Rachel, all I want is a belt is not how we do business here. Customer comes in and their car is not running. It's diagnosed why the car is not running. All I want is a belt means diagnose why the belt has failed, and there's a fee attached to it. So if the customer feels that we're going to go and check tensioners and pulleys and battery and all this other stuff and still not be able to check the alternator when we're done is unrealistic, you need to explain that to him. So call him up and say, hey, we're not just going to put a belt on your vehicle. You need to diagnose and check the pulleys, the tensioners, the battery, so on and so forth. Or by no means are we just going to put a belt on your car because that's what you want, right? And he's like, yeah, I know there's other problems with the car, but I don't want to fix anything else. Right? He's like, no oil change, no find out why the engine light's on. No, I don't want any of that. Just put a belt on. All right, so Rachel, tell him it's $60 to diagnose, to see if we can actually put a belt on his system. He agreed to that. So then we bring it in, we check the pulleys, we check the tensioner, we give the car an underhood inspection because he wants nothing more than that. We test the battery, it tests in the low. I said, hey, the one pulley is full of rubber, it's melted into the grooves. We have to clean that out, and then we could put a belt on, estimate the job, and I want an OEM belt. Because these weird Hyundais, older generations, the aftermarket belts just suck. We put it together, we start it up, and we verify that it's charging right now. That's all the customer could afford. But his expectations were, hey, just slap a belt on. Well, he could probably find some crumb shop that would have slapped the belt right on over a pulley that had melted rubber, but we're not that shop. But his expectations were, and that was his words, because Rachel types in the words right from their mouth so they can't say, I didn't say that. All I want was a belt. And I'm like, yeah, all you're going to get now is a diagnostic charge first to see if we can even do that. And it's a small diagnostic charge. All right, I hope I didn't bore you guys. I need to make up some time here because we're in traffic. Thanks for watching.